Welcome to our review of the Keychron Q1 keyboard. Now let's start off with a super quick unboxing. Inside the box you get everything that you'd expect. You get the tools to replace the keys on the keyboard, the screwdrivers needed to open the actual keyboard up. You get some spare pads for the bottom of the keyboard, some spare keys in case you're using a Windows machine as they come pre-installed with the Mac keys. And you also get the USB-C cable. I was a little bit disappointed because I thought I would get the USB-C cable that is on their website, which is the coiled cable. If you look at the left there, you can see it's pretty long cable and it just ends up looking a little bit messy. Now, I got the silver version in order for it to match with my MacBook Pro. The dark silver on this is quite a different shade to the one on the MacBook Pro, so if you are getting it with to have a match with a dark silver MacBook Pro, it doesn't match perfectly. There are other variants in black and blue. You can also customize on their website, where you can customize everything from your switches to the plate to the keycaps. You can even choose a badge and have them put a custom badge where the dial is. However, just know that you won't be able to get the knob version because obviously if you choose to have your badge there, there's nowhere to put the knob. The badge is also $30 to print, but it's an option if it's the kind of thing that you want and you're not going to use the knob. And to be honest, I really didn't use the knob anywhere near as much as I thought, just because when I'm editing, I can do everything with my mouse, and in my right hand, my keyboard in the left hand resting on the left side, so reaching over for the knob wasn't something I used as much as I thought I would, but it's there, and you can program it through the key mapping software. Now, the key mapping software is pretty interesting what they've done with this. It's not the most polished. You need to go into settings, you need to download the specific profile, and you need to upload this every single time you want to make any changes. You have to upload this profile. It does give you a lot of options, like in terms of you can change the media keys, you can change what the knob does in the top right hand corner, you can change your macro keys. There's a lot of options to customize. The one thing that I did notice as well is every time I tried to go into the settings, and anytime I clicked on the lighting tab on the top left, the application would just crash and freeze. It just literally would not work. I tried it on 2 different Macs, and this is basically what would happen. The application would freeze and I'd need to quit out of it and go back into it. So yeah, that's a little bit disappointing. The software isn't the greatest. Now, in terms of build quality, this thing is built like an absolute tank. I mean, this is what goes into it, and it's by far the best keyboard that I've used in terms of build quality. Now, as you can see here, they've added a good case foam layer, the PCB board. They've done a really good job in terms of not hearing any metal on metal noise, but the disadvantage is, as you can see here, I'm not pressing these buttons with a lot of force, but it causes the whole rest of the keyboard to go up and down. So when you're typing normally, you can see all the keys around the key you're pressing float up and down. Again, if you choose not to do this, then you're likely going to hear a clanking noise. So I'm glad they've actually done this. So if you do see the other keys around your key float up and down, that's perfectly normal. Now, this is going to be going up against several other keyboards that I've been trying lately. There's the Logitech keyboard, which is designed for the Mac and has backlit keys. There's this, which is been my favorite keyboard for a very long time. The Ducky keyboard right there. Of course, Apple's own keyboard. I have the one with the fingerprint sensor on the top right. It's terrible. It's a rubbish keyboard. I mean, this keyboard, the only thing is, if you compare it to other keyboards, it's very, very thick, and it also weighs a lot, which is a great thing because if you're not moving it around much, it won't slide around your table. It's in fact so big and heavy. When I first received it, I genuinely thought before I opened the box that they'd accidentally sent me numerous keyboards. It's incredibly heavy, but again, it's good because it feels like quality. I didn't think I'd like that aspect of it, but I really do. Now, this is the keyboard that I'm used to. This is the Apple keyboard. This is my Ducky keyboard with the backlights on. The only problem with this keyboard for me personally, one of the few complaints I had about it, was this is what it looks like at nighttime. None of the keys are shine through. They don't give you any option to get any keys that are shine through with this keyboard, so you'll need to get them separately. And I usually edit in the dark, so now I find myself a lot looking down and having to use a desk lamp, which is a little bit disappointing because it essentially means unless you get shine through keys like you can see I have on them, RGBs are essentially just for it to look pretty. In terms of typing, this is the typing noise. Let's have a listen. And just for comparison, this is the noise of the god-awful Mac keyboard, which costs almost as much. I really do not like typing on this thing. There's no key travel at all. This is the Ducky keyboard that I've been using for a while, and I really, really like this. And this is the Logitech MX keyboard, which was designed specifically for Mac. Better key travel than the Apple keyboard, but still nowhere near as good as a mechanical keyboard. Only noise I didn't like from this keyboard was the spacebar. I mean, if you listen to the spacebar here, it's just a personal taste thing, but I much prefer the spacebar sound that comes from other keyboards than comes from this. Now, just for size comparison, if you do have an Apple keyboard and you are buying this for an Apple machine, I mean, this will just give you a rough idea of what the size is like. But again, I thought this would be a bad thing for me, but it's not. It's actually the fact that it's so heavy, it doesn't move around the table at all. I don't need to worry about it shifting around the table. The keys are great to type on. The multimedia keys, as you can see at the top, they're slightly outdated because the current MacBook has different multimedia keys, as you can see. This is the 2021 M1 16-inch MacBooks, and the media keys are different. Now, they work as they should on the keyboard. The only difference is that every now and then you're going to press the wrong button because you're not used to F2, F3, F4 doing that on the MacBook Pro, and it's going to do something different on this keyboard. Now, on the bottom right, we do have full-size arrow keys, and that is the one major thing with this over my Ducky keyboard. I didn't realize how much I'd missed those arrow keys, not having them on the Ducky keyboard. On the MX Anywhere, on the Apple keyboard, they're small, but this is great. I love being able to have them, and especially on the Ducky Mecha Mini that I have, having to constantly hold down the shift key. It's annoying, and I'm really glad to have them back. Now, there's not all that much to say other than I love the sound of it. I love the feel of the keys. Apart from the spacebar feels a bit tacky to me, but I love the feel of the keys. Now, my only other complaint, and something that you should take into consideration, is this is me typing. If I want to reach anything on the top row or even the row below it, I need to lift up my wrist and go forward. I just have to because I can't reach it. The alternative is to buy a wrist rest. Now, if we take a look at the awful Apple keyboard, for example, the only advantage this has is I can reach all the keys without having to constantly lift my wrist up off the table, which over a period of 2-3 hours in a day of typing, it does give you some fatigue in your wrists. This is one of the very few sacrifices. Even with my Ducky keyboard, because you can angle it with the tabs at the bottom, I can reach every key without an issue. Again, the only thing with this Keychron keyboard is it does give you some wrist fatigue because you do have to constantly lift your wrist up or get a wrist rest. They're your only options. Now, I've let quite a few people try this keyboard. I even took it around the office, had a lot of people try it out. And I would say that the vast majority of people liked it. A few people didn't like how big it was and having to constantly reach over for the keys. Now, my advice on whether you should get this keyboard or not is very simple. Keychron's return policy is that if you are returning the item simply because you don't like it, you need to pay for the return postage yourself, and they'll also not refund the postage to you. Given the weight of this keyboard, you'd probably be left out of pocket about, I believe it costs about £15 to send the item to you, and you'd probably pay £15 to £20 to send it back insured as well. However, there are other places that stock this. Amazon usually stock Keychron keyboards, at least they do in the UK. Get it from somewhere where if you don't like it, you can return it. Because the feel of a mechanical keyboard, the feel of the keys, whether you like the red, brown, blue, all of this is subjective. So get it from somewhere where if you don't like it, you can return it. Now, in terms of the negatives, it's priced pretty high. It's $180 at the moment. And then once you add on shipping, it can come to about £170 in the UK, and the software could be better. In terms of the positives, it's built like a tank. The build quality is second to absolutely none. It's a pleasure to type on. I love the feel of the keys. I love the sound of the keys. I really do wish the keys were shine through because, you know, I'm not good enough where I don't need to look down at all, but I constantly find myself having to look down now, whereas with other keys that were shine through, I didn't need to turn on my desk lamp. I could glance down. Do I like this more than the Ducky? Let's just put it this way. If the Ducky had the arrow keys, I would probably keep the Ducky, especially considering it could be had on sale for almost half the price. And I do ever so slightly prefer the keys of the Ducky. My advice is get hold of one, but get hold of one from somewhere that has a decent returns policy. And if you don't like it, you can return it and try something else. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this in any way, please like and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day.